Today I'm going to introduce you to the word part strain, strict, string, which means bind, tie, or draw tight. Okay, so if we were to actually come up with a symbol to represent this, maybe a string tied, maybe a shoelace being tying a shoe would probably be a good symbol to represent this word part. Okay, for our first word here we have astringent. And astringent is a noun. So we're going to go ahead and break this word to isolate the part. Do you see it? There's string right here. String. Okay, which we know means either to bind, tie, or draw tight. Astringent. And it's a noun. Some of you may have heard this word, some of you may not, but let's go ahead and look at the definition. It's a substance used on skin to make the skin tight. Okay, it is usually some kind of solution that kind of looks like alcohol. It could be witch hazel. You may see somebody doing this to kind of clean their skin. They will get this bottle with this clear solution and then put some of that solution maybe on a cotton ball and go over the skin to clean it and keep it purified. Moving on to word number 2, the word is boa constrictor. And this is a noun, and some of you may already be familiar with this word and may know what this word means. But let's go ahead and isolate the word part. Right here we have constrictor. We have here strict, right? Which we know means, again, to bind, tie, or draw tight. So let's look at the definition for boa constrictor. It is a snake that kills its prey by squeezing it tightly. Here's a strict part, right? By squeezing it tightly. So what is a boa constrictor? It is a snake, and it's known as typically a dangerous snake because it will use its squeezing abilities to kill its prey. Moving on to number 3, the word is constrict. Constrict, and it is a verb. So let's go ahead and isolate the part. This is where you would cut it. And here we have the part strict, right? Which we know means to bind or tie, tight. And con usually means with, But I don't know if that will actually play a role in this word today. Constrict is a verb, so it's going to be something that you do. Okay, so make sure that you use it as a verb in your homework assignment when you use it in a sentence. Okay, here is a definition. To hold in, to make smaller, to squeeze, or bind, to make smaller. Okay, so to constrict. So such as wearing maybe some kind of a rubber band around your wrist, it may constrict the blood flow, okay? Make it smaller, to constrict. Moving on to the next word, number 4 is district. District is a noun, and we've all heard this word before, okay? And let's see where the word part is. Right here, we see the word strict, and it is a noun. So let's see what the word part having to do with tight or draw tight or bind have to do with the word district as we know it. Here's the definition. A region or area that is bound together by specific rules, laws, and resources and or money, such as the school district, right? It is a region or an area, right, that is bound together by specific rules, laws, or resources and or money. Moving on to number 5, the word is restrain. Restrain, and it is a verb. Usually means again, right? We know that. And strain, we know means bind, tie, or tight. We do something, right? So it is a verb. It's going to be an action. So let's look at the definition for restrain. Restrain means to hold back, to keep under control, to limit, to draw tight by force, to restrain someone from doing something. In other words, you're holding them back, right? Restrain. Moving on to number 6, the word is restricted. The word is restricted, and it is an adjective, even though it ends with an ed, which would make you think it's a verb. In this case, we need to use it as an adjective. So when you are doing your homework, make sure that you use it in a sentence as an adjective and not a verb. So let's go ahead and break this down. You have re and strict, And it's an adjective. Let's look at the definition. Bound by limits, kept within certain rules, restricted, okay? Bound by limits, kept within certain rules. For example, in school, the 8th grade square is restricted to 6th and 7th graders, okay? It is bound by limits. It is restricted, right? Moving on to number 7, the word is strain. And strain is a verb, and some of you may be familiar with this word. And I'm not going to go ahead and break the word part because it is a word part, so to speak. Let's go ahead and look at the definition. The definition for strain is, sorry about that, to draw or stretch tight beyond the normal limits, okay? For example, sometimes when you use too much force, you strain your eyes, right? When you are trying to see very small print, okay? You're stretching tight beyond the normal limits to strain. Moving on to number 8, the word is strainer. Strainer, and it is a noun, and many of you may be familiar with this because many of you may have one of these at home. A strainer, which is a device used for letting the water leave the food so the food is drawn together. And this is the drawing part, and why the word part strain is here, okay? And it is a noun, and even though we may think is a person, it is a thing in this case, strainer. So we use this device a lot of times. For example, you may see when someone's cooking pasta, they may place the pasta in the strainer afterwards to release the water and just keep the pasta separate, right? A strainer. Moving on to number 9, the word is string. And string here is a noun, and we're very familiar with this word. But let's see what the word string has to do with the word part, right? Let's check it out. It is a thin piece of twisted fiber that can be used to tie things together, okay? To tie together. A thin piece of twisted fiber that can be used to tie things together, a string, okay? Very familiar with that. Moving on to our last and final word is stringent. Stringent. So let's go ahead and break down the word part. Okay, and stringent here, it is an adjective. It's going to be used to describe something. So stringent here is going to be something used to describe something, right, that can be tied or bound together. Let's check it out. The definition for stringent is demanding strict attention to rules, rigid, having a tight set of rules. Okay, stringent. Some sports or clubs may have stringent rules, right? That means demanding strict attention to rules, rigid, having a tight set of rules, stringent. All right, well, that concludes our review and introduction of the words for the week. I hope this was helpful.